Tov, good morning. We continue with a 3-minute daily dose of Torah, looking a little bit at the crossing of the Red Sea, Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea and the crossing of the sea. We kind of have two different appreciations of what's happening. The Torah kind of puts out to us this the simple notion that you guys just stay put. I'm going to do everything. I'll split the sea, and then you just got to walk across. That's no big gadilla at all. That's kind of how the psukim feel on one level. On the other hand, we have this verse. Let me bring it up 1 second. Here's the verse where you have these interesting midrashim. Anyway, so on the one hand it says in pasuk Chaf Beit, "Vayavo bnei Yisrael b'toch hayam vayabasha," and the children of Israel entered the midst of the sea in the dry, on the dry, in the dry, right? And then you have a little later on where it says, "Uvenei Yisrael pasuk Chavtet, Uvenei Yisrael alchu b'yabasha b'toch hayam." The children of Israel they walked through the dry land in the midst of the sea. So on the one hand, there's nothing to worry about here. God opened up the space. It's betoch hayam in that it's in the midst of this what would have been the sea, but they have dry land. That's how they came into that, and then they walked through when it was yabasha all the way. Look at that. We're in the midst of the sea. So not much to see here. Everybody would be one rendering, but the other rendering somehow is that actually there was a big event that happened here that was required that at least some people actually go into betoch hayam when the sea was still a sea, not just a dry bed of the sea. And that's where we have this tradition that that Nachshon, who was standing at the banks of the Yam Suf, jumped into the waters, and as he did so, then the water split. I mean, I didn't mean that he jumped in and then clunk, he banged his head so much, but he jumped into what were otherwise the very active waters of the Yam Suf, and in the merit of that, the Bnei Yisrael were, God carried out the miracle in effect, because God was in effect waiting for them. Wow, so God's waiting for them. It's not merely, I'll do everything, you just stand here, which is how the psukim seem to imply things, but more. There's this rendering that you find in one of the teachings of the Sakar Chava Rebbe, who says, right, when it came to Yetziat Mitzrayim, we needed to do a mitzvah. We needed to do a mitzvah. That was to bring the Korban Pesach, right? And there's in the merit of the mitzvah, then God freed us from Egypt. But there was no mitzvah the Bnei Yisrael had to do when they to merit this miracle. He says, you know what? The miracle was this is Misirut Nefesh. This is people who are willing to put their lives at risk. Maybe he's referring specifically to the act of Nachshon or others who might have gone with him also when it was still wet and then it split. There's a Misirut Nefesh factor when God sees that we're ready to put our lives at risk for the great cause and for other purposes around it, then God indeed carries out the miracle on our behalf. Something to analyze further. I invite you to read it carefully. Have a great day.